Hi, my name is Sean Phillips. This is my Module 16 case study for EDL 856. In our case study for this module, some things that we know. We know that there's a new principal by the name of Miss Rose. She is brand new to the district and new to just being a principal in general. She does have a background in some community relations based upon some coursework that she's taken while in college, and she is now currently employed at John F. Kennedy School. Based upon her experience with the school and what little time she's been there, we see that there's very little contact with parents and community. You don't see them in the schools very often. You don't see them helping with a whole lot. There are no PTO or PTA groups, so the school pretty much just operates as its own entity, and this is concerning for Ms. Rose. Other things that we know about this is about the current principal. The current principal is a veteran principal that's been there. He does not seem to be concerned about parental involvement. His philosophy in general is that it's best just to leave parents alone. They don't want to be bothered. Feels like that parents are just kind of apathetic towards being involved in the school. We know that he's tried to reach out before, that he tried to get some volunteers to come in and help in the lunchroom, but didn't receive very much support from that. So he feels like the way that he can determine the feel of the community is through his own personal interactions, through phone calls or conversations that he has at various events, or through conversations that he overhears when parent-teacher conferences go on. He feels like the community overall feels like the educators are the ones who should take care of all of the dealings of the school, and parent and community members shouldn't really be responsible. We also know that Mrs. Rose, despite being told everything was okay, she persists to try to keep investigating how they might better involve parents, and the principal finally agrees, but he states that he doesn't want to start any PTA group or PTO group. Instead, he wants to just create some type of advisory group that is made up of parents. So they do schedule a meeting, and they send out announcements to the community by sending letters home with students. And once they schedule the meeting and the meeting time gets here, only 8 parents showed up. So that was deflating for Mrs. Rose and the principal, and they are contemplating, do we really even need to hold this meeting or not? And that's kind of where our case takes off. And based upon that, for me to be able to figure out how to address this, there are some things that I need to know. First thing I'd like to know is, how have parents been informed of opportunities in the past? We know that they sent letters home in this particular instance, but have there been any other methods, or is that the only way that they are trying to contact parents? I would like to know what connections the school has in the community itself. Hopefully there's more than just parents that they're trying to contact, so what are some of those community relationships that the school has? What events are there that bring people to the school? We do know that there are parent-teacher conferences, but there's no mention in our story here about other events that bring large amounts of people to school and could use that as a resource or an opportunity. We also don't know what the community values. Every community is made up a little bit different. What do they feel is important? We need to know, has the school ever tried to build relationships with parents before they actually need their help? Or are they more perceived as, well, the school only wants parents to come in when they need help, not necessarily trying to, engage them just at any given time instead of only when needing something. Another thing that I need to know is, our story leaves off of, do we want to have this meeting? Well, I would want to know, of that group of 8 parents that showed up, how can they help? What resources do they bring to the table? 8 parents is better than no parents. How can we go and help use them as a resource? And then also, it seems like the principal is kind of taking on all the duties by himself for outreach and coming up with ideas solely on his own. What about the staff? They deal with kids every day. They hear that students talking about different things. Maybe they have some other ideas of how to reach out to parents. So based upon all this, what do I think the problem is? Well, I think the problem is that the school just isn't connected to its community that it serves. And because it's not connected, you don't see parents and community members that are actively trying to be involved with the school. So what we need to try to accomplish is just get that connection built between the school. And I think once we see that connection get built, that relationship built, then you will see more volunteerism and people wanting to be more active in their community school. So, what am I going to do? My plan of action. The first thing we need to do is gather some information. We need to understand what issues are going on here. That way we can address them. So, we need to understand why the community is not getting involved. First thing I would do, since the story leaves off during the meeting with the 8 parents, I would have the meeting and I would talk with those parents and try to figure out why why more parents didn't attend. Maybe they have an idea for why. I would formulate a staff PR committee. And with that PR committee, that would allow them to be able to communicate information, figure out ways to connect with the community and parents, and hopefully build some positive relationships there. I would send out a survey to the parents and community members, maybe that aren't parents, business people, maybe retired people, things like that, and just to get some information about maybe ways that people would like to help contribute to the school. And then I personally, as the administrator or building leader there, would try to get involved in some community groups, whether it be a business leadership group, maybe some of the religious groups, touching base with them because they're in contact with lots of different people through the community. Maybe the VFW to try to get some of the people that are retired, get them involved and some of their opinion. Now, once we do that, once we kind of gather some information, the next thing to do is figure out how we're going to get community into the school. I think that's important. Get them there. So I think the school needs to try to provide more than just parent-teacher conferences. There need to be several student performance events. That's one thing that I think parents all love to do is watch their kids be successful. So we need to try to come up with other activities where everyone is coming into the school. Building relationships, I think we should recognize different community groups for either positive things they've done for the school, positive things they've done in the community, things like that, like the veterans in the community have a veterans program to thank them for their service, or something honor public servants by having police, fire come into the school for a dinner that's put on by students. Maybe something with the business partners, recognize them at a football game at halftime or something for being a positive influence on our community, and try to build that relationship and have those people and their families come in to see those recognitions. I also think maybe trying to reach out to those that might be the retired community that don't have students in the school, maybe have a coffee with the principal or a morning walk with the principal. A lot of schools open their buildings during the wintertime for people to maybe walk in the morning. Why not have the principal walk with them, give them a chance to get the input from people that maybe don't have students in the building. I think it would also be important to connect with the lower level schools. I'm viewing this from a high school perspective because that's what I teach. And what I would do is try to connect our high school building with the middle school and the elementary school to try to build relationships there and hopefully expand my pool of people that would possibly be willing to help out with our school. So just some simple examples. Maybe have a safe trick-or-treat event where different classrooms are decorated and hand out candy, where you bring in, little kids, their families, siblings, things like that to try to get people interested in what you're doing. A lot of communities have youth teams that are playing recreation sports. Maybe we bring them in to play at halftime of the basketball game for just a few minutes. Those types of things just to build a little bit of relationship there and connect the buildings. Then I think we need to take the school out to the community. So, by showing that we are going to do things for the community, maybe establish a community service day. We do this at my school. I think it's a good PR type of event where we go out and we help maybe elderly people in the community with things that maybe they just can't do on their own. Maybe send school groups to help different community groups like the Goodwill or a soup kitchen, or maybe there's some big community event, some volunteers from the actual school to go help. I would get involved in some community organizations, and again, by me being involved, I'm going to feel connected to it, and the community will feel I'm connected there. And then I mentioned performances at the school, but why not performances out in the community? Maybe the choir singing at a certain event or something along those lines. Then the next plan is we've got to do a better job of sharing information. There's no mention of a social media presence in today's today's world. People are on their cell phones all the time. We need to get that information to them that way, because most parents are their kids that are in school, they're probably aware of social media. We need to, I didn't hear any mention of a school website in our story, so I would make sure our school website is publicizing all of the things that are going on with the school and also publicizing opportunities for parents. I would use that group of 8 to help them be a resource in my community to go out and share with whatever groups or organizations they're connected to. If they're coming to volunteer here, they're probably involved somewhere else as well. Whatever community group I got into, I would use that as a PR tool by connecting with the business leaders. That's going to allow me to share things that are going on, maybe needs that we have. Same thing with the VFW for possible retired people, religious groups, and they're great at reaching out for needs for people, for food, clothing, things like that. Activities for students to do after things that are safe, after a game or something like that. And then I could also share information myself by with those coffee and walking groups, have an opportunity for them to ask questions and me to share. Then we're ready to start seeking help. So use those relationships that we've built to inform parents at those student events. So if they're all going to be there, let's use that opportunity to promote some of the places that they could help out. Publicize stuff on social media and the school website of how they can get involved. And it doesn't have to be just parents that are volunteering. What about other community members? So use those community groups as an opportunity to help out. So when trying to figure out what's best for all students, I think what's good for students is when parents are aware of activities and they're participating. I think that's a good thing. Making community resources available to improve learning, not just parents, but community. When parents have a positive perception of their child's school, I think they want to be a part of it. And then when students feel supported by parents in their community, they're in a safe environment, they're more apt to do well. So when resolving this, how does this do it? Well, I think it creates opportunities for students that don't have active parents. If we can bring community members in, if it's only 8 parents, if we bring in other community members, now we've come up with a way to solve that issue to still have people actively involved. Just sending letters home with students, that's probably not the best way to communicate. We know students lose things, so creating alternate ways to communicate is a good thing. And that helps all students be successful. We're not just dependent upon a piece of paper. And then I think this community relationship helps foster better communications. Parents and teachers are going to interact in these events in a positive way. And so that it's not just a conference where things can seem a little uneasy. It's a positive environment and allows people to feel comfortable talking with each other. So, as I was going through this, what was I thinking? Well, I thought Miss Rose was correct. We do need community involvement. I was thinking that there aren't enough opportunities for parents to come see school. They need positive things to interact. I was thinking 8 parents is better than nothing. Let's start from scratch right there. And I also was thinking sending those letters home isn't a good idea. We need other stakeholders involved in this process. What was I feeling? I think the principal needs to kind of let somebody else take the lead here that doesn't feel jaded towards the experience. I feel like the community is not, or the school is not innovative based on only using paper to communicate. I feel that students are missing out on opportunity because community isn't involved. And I was feeling that, we're limiting our opportunities for volunteerism by only considering parents. What was I valuing? I think the school is the heart of the community. I was valuing a positive perception of education at school, and I was valuing collaborative leadership. What are some unresolved issues? Well, we still don't know what the results of the survey are that I proposed to be sent out. So some of the things I suggested may not tie exactly to what those were. Those are just some ideas that I had. We don't know if the current principal would support that. If I'm assuming I'm the assistant principal, Ms. Rose, in this case, these ideas may not be supported by someone that tends to think negatively on this interaction. And then we still don't know what the community is made up of. There really wasn't a lot of discussion about that in the story. How did I collaborate with families and communities? Well, data from the survey allowed multiple input. The group of 8 is going to be community members. The involvement in the community groups and participation in events, that's going to allow multiple people to communicate. And then my coffee and walking groups. Responding to diverse needs, I was seeking out all parents. I addressed input from the community without the students in school by going to those things like the VFW and things like that. This provides a benefit for the community and not just the school. And it also connects the school with the business community, not just parents. And this also established collaborative leadership. So, mobilizing community resources, I established connections in the community so businesses could provide funding, other resources, the VFW and religious groups, possibly facilities, establishing the relationship with community members that are available during the workday. Parents work, so some of these other ones could fill in during the day. And I also have increased the ability for resources by expanding the parent pool by connecting with multiple buildings. So those are my thoughts.